Yeah, so when I'm writing, I'm never writing consciously for anyone really, apart from myself, I suppose, but not for an audience. But I did reflect on Wongle as our audience going to accept this? Wow, you got a funky face on, Mark. Check it out. Are you seeing that,
Oh
Jess?
wow! I don't know
That
what
is
happened.
hip, man.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I don't know what happened.
Damn, you've been wongled, boy. You've been
I guess
wongled.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, while you play around with your funky filter,
Yeah.
um, I'll carry
Yeah.
on.
I'm gonna just try. There we go.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that was
Thank
that
you
was
for
exciting.
noticing. I wasn't looking at me, so I didn't even notice. And now we
But
got it again.
yeah, so oh yeah, oh, he's gone. He's out. There, you
I'm
back.
back. I'm
Okay.
not leaving. I'm still here. The video
Okay.
is
Well, if
pretty
your
crazy.
face goes freaky, we're just going to carry on. Okay. It's fine.
Please, please.
Um,
I'm gonna watch it now. I wasn't watching it, but go ahead. I'm looking
and
at you guys and go.
yeah, so I did wonder if it was going to be kind of accepted as part of the album. But I mean, when Jess started doing these, I mean, she references Chili Peppers, and I get that totally, but this very funky vocal over the top, I mean, my vibe is just what the hell, it's great. This just we go with it, which is what we did. And I tell you something that's been really incredibly gratifying is that as we're getting feedback from people about the album, they're all picking different tunes that they're enjoying, right? Including Wongle Number Nine. So no one is kind of ignoring a particular track as something that doesn't sit right for them, and people have commented that the way the album flows. I mean, we talked about this, and when we ended up with these 6 tracks, we had these kind of 3 groovers, and then these 3 tracks that are more mellow. So, and we were thinking all the time about vinyl. So we actually have like a sun side and a moon side,
Oh,
So
cool.
side one, then this is how it'll be on the vinyl, but side one is those 3, is Light
Right.
Up, Wongle Number Nine, Mount Ephraim, which are these kind of up tracks, kind of funky tracks. And then side 2, which is the moonlit side, we just kick back and take it back and kind of let it build. And it's a very, there's some, for me and Jess anyway, there's some very emotional stuff that we were creating there for us, So yeah, so there we go. That was Wongle Number Nine. Mount Ephraim. Should we just? You want
Yeah.
us to keep talking through the tracks? Okay,
Just
I'll do this one because there's a story to it, and then Jess can do one.
please,
So,
please.
so
That's the one I really want to talk about. Go ahead.
yeah. So Mount Ephraim is well, actually, it's a mountain in Israel, isn't it? But in Kent, in England, there's a stately home called Mount Ephraim Gardens, or it's called Mount Ephraim, and it has Mount Ephraim Gardens, and there is a fantastic festival there called a New Day Festival, which is 3 days of great music, and it's run by a guy called Dave Reese, and Dave Reese actually put out a couple of our earlier albums. Dave Reese is Mr. Jethro Tull. He ran a New Day, which is the Jethro Tull fanzine, and still does, has done for decades, and is very much part of that Tull thing. So, yeah, he does this festival, and we've played it a few times, but we played it in 2019, which was before Jess joined. Our singer then was Emma Brown. And then we started on the album, and we had this track called A New Day. And I said to Dave that this track is obviously, about the festival. It's written for the festival, man. And so therefore you need to give us a gig. And he said, yeah, sure it does. That's bullshit, but I'm going to give you a gig anyway. And he was right. It was nothing to do with it. It was nothing to do with the festival. It was just like, it's another kind of expression of optimism, I guess, a new day. So anyway, we did the gig and it was great, and it was the first time we played it with Jess, and it was magic, and we loved it. So after the festival, I said to him, "Okay, man. So what do I have to do to get us back next year? In 2022?" He said, "Write me the ballad of Dave Reese, and I'll think about it." So, so I said, "Yeah, sure, man, we can do that. I really want the gig." And so Mount Ephraim it's kind of about all festivals, really. But it was written specifically for Dave Reese and for his festival and for the way it makes people feel to be there together. And, so while I was working on it, I was sending in demos, awful demos with me kind of screeching over the top of it and stuff. And he gave us,
They were the best ones. We should release an album with you singing all of the OG tracks. Can you imagine?
And and he gave us the festival. So that's what that track's about. But Jess has a different vibe about it, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I connect to it in much more of a way of because of COVID and not being able to see lots of people for 2+ years. For me, it's quite an emotional, emotionally charged song, because the lyrics, like I really do listen to the lyrics and interpret it, and that allows me to sing the way that I sing. Because if I didn't have a connection, I could literally be anyone behind that mic. So me connecting to those lyrics and thinking about all those people who I haven't been able to see or have recently been able to like reconnect with, that for that whole thing. I mean, like Andy has said before in another interview, the whole fact that it's about a festival and everyone gathers together. It's just that whole gathering and being social again and reconnecting that really kind of really amps it, especially the double chorus where the vocals lift. I don't know how we came up with that bit, but it was just from this like relentless Jenny's fiddle playing, and that is I watched the crowd listening to this particular piece, and they just cannot believe, I still can't believe how she plays it, because it's in just from the start, I think, to the end, this incredible kind of, you just get drawn in. And then when the singing starts, it's like the next level. Yeah, it's all a bit, it's a great way to end the Sunside. I think when the vinyl comes out, it amps you up. And additionally, when we do play it live, it's so great to just like, I wouldn't say dance to it. I would say I leap around a lot, as do the backing singers. It's a tough. I never really count it, the beats in music, especially with what Andy writes. There's no point. It is a feeling, and you have to kind of be taken. It's like we're playing this, and you're like, oh, okay. That this particular song is all over the shop with time signatures, so there's no point in trying to keep up with it in that way.
Yeah.
So in terms of the dancing, there's not I wouldn't call it dance moves. I would just say it was just
it's expressive dancing.
Dance, yeah, maybe. yeah, it's a great track.
Yeah, for me it was almost like and that's what I wrote in the review. The devil went down to Georgia. I don't know if I'm sure Andy's heard of that, but Jess, have you ever heard that?
I have.
Charlie Daniels. Yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, the subject matter, everything was.
Yeah, I was going to say lyrics.
But the power.
But
the power of it, the power of what she does there was almost equal.
Yeah, I mean, Jenny is from the Irish traditional fiddle playing, particularly from Donegal, which is Northern Ireland and North West Ireland in Ireland itself, but she's really she just loves that particular style of playing, and it's very energetic and intense, and quite dark actually sometimes to my ears anyway. But so that's her thing, and that's what she sort of brings to the band. She's always, Mark, the original fiddle player, he was a violinist. He wasn't, I wouldn't say he was a fiddle player, he was a violinist, and classically trained to a very, very high level. And, so he had all those kind of chops, and he had that sort of attitude as a player, and it was great. Jenny's completely different, it's a much more kind of earthy, organic, folk influenced style of playing. So Mount Ephraim, she's like just letting it rip, really, in 5/4.
Yeah. And then in 6 occasionally.
Yeah.
Why not? Just when you get used to the 5.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a lot of fun.
You guys want to talk about Run? That's another beautiful song. Very quiet and relaxing, I thought.
Yeah. And that's when you kind of can see why we thought of putting it on vinyl, because it's like the other side of it, where you've got all of that energy from the first 3 tracks, followed by, especially from Mount Ephraim, being pulled in and kind of being taken off on this crazy mad journey to then sit with yourself and sit with the music and take that breather. Run in particular for me is one where I get quite emotional listening to it. I remember the first time listening to it after being in the studio with Andy in the room that he's in now, and really connecting with it in a way that I've never done before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like the same with the next song. And what a lot of fans have said, especially on Friends of Solstice, is those two, one after the other, is quite an emotional roller coaster. If you properly,
Home is beautiful. Yeah, everyone should write a song like that, about their own home and that feeling. You really captured it.
Yeah, well, thank you. Again, me listening to the lyrics and seeing what Andy envisioned in his own way, and then interpreting it myself. I worked really hard this album in paying really careful attention and listening to it several times and singing it several times before going in the studio. Sheer was very different. It was kind of parody. Like, I did change some things, but this one, because I was with Andy for the whole process, like having direction and having someone to bounce off of with ideas is a very, very different way of making music. Like loads of artists these days, producers these days, sit in a room and they will just, create music, which is fine, and that does work. But I think as creatives, it's such a social, organic thing that if you have an idea, you take it and you run with it. And it sometimes doesn't work, but sometimes it creates tracks like Run, and it creates tracks like Home.
Yeah, they're beautiful tracks. And it's interesting hearing, I'm not going to comment on it here, but obviously lyrics for me are very difficult, I have to say. That's the first thing I have to say. The music, fortunately, it kind of comes quite easily to me, and then I have to think about the lyrics, and I guess I hear, I don't want to offend anyone by this, but I hear a lot of bad lyrics. That's how I feel about it. Lyrics that aren't really saying anything, or they just sound contrived, or they sound kind of recycled, or whatever, I don't know, cliched. And so I'm really at pains to try my best to avoid those paths, I find it really difficult, and it takes me a long time to do it. But It's interesting. What's interesting is that people have different interpretations of what these things mean, and obviously, I know what I'm what I'm
Sure.
kind of writing about, but I don't I do try, I suppose, consciously not to be really overt about it because I love that idea that people will decide what it's about for themselves, and it may differ from one person to the next, and really love that. You know, I really love that because I don't consider myself a lyricist or a poet, you know, at all. I tell you who is a poet. Ian Anderson is a poet. But anyway, that's not a story. But if people can find something in it that they can, you know, connect with, then I'm delighted. And if it's got nothing to do with what I was getting at personally, which it often isn't, then I'm also delighted.
Well, you don't want to talk about your perspective on it then, or
Well, I will if you want me to, yeah.
sure, it's up to you. No, no, I'm
But,
not.
but then, but then I might be ruining it for you. You know, I don't want.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, I'm not going to do it. Jess, you're so smart. Thank you.
That almost happened. No, that's like I do my own music as well on the side, and I write very, very differently to Andy. So it is like a breath of fresh air to have very ambiguous lyrics that you know, the idea of something can be written in all forms, whether
Sure.
it's, you know, natural forces, whether it's things like talking about medicine and all of these things, like light up, like all everyone will listen to the music and whatever they connect to and then go, that's how I feel at this moment, this is how I connect to this piece of music. So yeah, I don't know, it's
I've, you know, I'd really rather that the lyrics were kind of like the music. Because when you listen to music, no lyrics, you get a feeling from it, and everyone's going to get a different vibe from it, and they're going to see a different thing. And I would, I'm really glad you stopped me there, Jess. And I would really rather that you know that the lyrics are the same. You know that they're there for you to make you feel something. If they do feel, maybe they don't make you feel anything, that's fine. But you know, I'd rather it was more akin to the way the music operates. So I mentioned this the other day, but if you take someone like John Anderson, the way he writes lyrics, to you know, they are incredible to me. Those lyrics, but
Yeah.
and they do, and I pick out things from them that move me. But when you look at them at face value, you know, who knows what they mean? You know,
Yeah.
maybe they don't mean anything. But what he's done is he's picked words and lyrics that are just become another instrument and part of the music and part of the kind of power and the glory and the beauty of it. So, and of course, I've always been, you know, the first band I saw live as a 14-year-old was a band called Griffon, who you may or may not know. And they played, and I just thought that was the best thing I'd ever heard. And then the next band that came on were the main band, and that they were Yes, you know. So that was my first experience of live music. Can you
Good
imagine?
start.
Can you imagine that for a 14-year-old kid? I mean,
Yeah.
so of course, you know, they're part of my DNA, and of course, John Anderson is, you know, he's always been, you know, right at the top. I mean, you know, that guy, I don't know how old he is now, but he can still sing just
Yeah.
so beautifully, you know.
And
And he,
it's a shame we don't want to get into the Yes battle, but I really, you got to bring him back. You know, I think Davidson's okay. He sounds like him, but it's just not the same. It'll never, and it shouldn't be the same anyway.
it couldn't be.
But
It
yeah,
couldn't.
there's what you really nailed it with the John's writing. It is out of this world, really. It's another realm, and always has been. And when I look at the last couple albums with Davidson, you're not
No,
feeling.
I mean, sorry, for me, you know, again, people won't like it, but the last album that they made really was Relayer, for me personally. And if you listen to, or Going for the One, if you listen to something like Awaken, that is just the biggest. Still, I mean, it's making me kind of well up just thinking about it.
Yes. Yeah. No, that song was
such a spiritual piece of music.
Very spiritual. Yeah.
And since that lineup, fell apart, it's not possible to reproduce that. It never will be, But hey, hopefully people are still enjoying their music, whatever they're doing.
And I like Turn of the Century too, which a lot of people don't even talk about that song off of that wonderful album. But that whole album is definitely one of my favorites. But they were in a different place when they were in where was it? Switzerland, Lake Geneva, I think, when they did that. And it's incredible. If you haven't heard that one, Jess, Going for the One. Yes. It really, well, anything by Yes, but that one is a good one.
Yeah. Anyway, so there's one more tune that we have.
That's where I was going. So you take it away.
I don't know. Do you want to say anything about this one, Jess?
I think you should start it because
I've always got a story.
Exactly.
But talk about the instrument he used, because that's really, there's probably a whole history on that.
I think, and that's what starts this piece of music off every time. It's this. Where has this sound come from? What is it I'm listening to? So Andy needs to start this off anyway, I think.
Sure. Well, so Pete Hemsley, the drummer in the band, he has been the drummer since 2006. But we have been close friends for much longer than that. So in the late 80s, in the 80s, we had a couple of projects together, original projects, and then through that period and much of the 90s, we played together in bread and butter bands, and we still do. So we've always had a sort of a social and working relationship. So we're close, and he loves these kind of interesting instruments, and he did a beautiful album called Beauty of Time. Peter Hemsley, Beauty of Time. It's on Spotify. I highly recommend you check it out. So he loves these pan arts instruments, which I won't try and describe, but they're beautiful kind of tuned percussion instruments. And he saw this instrument called a bulbul tarang. So this is an made in India, Indian instrument. Bulbul tarang translates to waves of nightingales. So that kind of gives you a little insight into perhaps the way it sounds. But anyway, he saw this thing and thought, oh man, yeah, I've got to have that. And he saw a friend of his in Australia playing one, and so at great expense, he purchased this thing, had it shipped over, and all the rest of it. Got it in his studio, and I guess he got it out and he had to play around with it, and then he put it back in its case. And 6 months later, he hadn't done anything with it. And on my 60th birthday, funnily enough, it was just afterwards, me and Pete were in the studio trying to work out how we were going to play these tunes from Sheer. So it was like a guitar and a drum rehearsal, working on grooves and stuff. And he got this instrument out and he said, "Happy 60th birthday, man," and just laid this incredible instrument on me that was incredibly valuable, and it was just a really beautiful thing. I hardly knew what to say. Yeah. So when I got it back, I got it out, and I started playing around with it. And when you get a new instrument, if it's something that you connect with and you love, you obviously little things come out. And I didn't know what I was doing with it, but what came out of it was what became this song, Bulbul Tarang. So the first half of it, there's lots of stuff going on, but I'm playing the Bulbul Tarang. So the song, that's where it came from initially, was that gift, and then what the music that came out of it, and then that sort of developed over time into this, 10 or 11 minutes of music. And to this day, I don't know where this music comes from, really, when there's something kind of, for me anyway, special about that track. And it's tied up with, a friendship over decades somehow, and feeds into this thing we're doing now with Jess and the rest of the band. And I don't know. There it
But
is.
what's also amazing as well is that the summer before, a band called Azure had supported us in Southampton, and the most incredible singer, Chris Sampson, is their lead singer and also plays guitar. And Andy had asked them to come. I think you just messaged them, didn't you, and said, Chris, would you like to sing on this album, sing on this song on Bulbul? And for me, what I found a little bit baffling, because like I'm very proud of my harmonies and like creating and weaving these tapestries and everything. So I'd done my part, and it was really epic, and I was really buzzed about it because it's such a whopper of a song. And just when you think you're like, oh, it's the end of the song, it like Andy somehow has created this like extra bit that's just going to send you off the edge. And then I remember getting a mix back, and Chris had done their vocals, and I messaged them and I said, Chris, you found more harmonies within this song, and what they can do with their voice is nothing that I could ever dream of doing, and I don't want to do. Like, that's not my like my style. But what they added is just brings it even closer to this like high point where you're just about to finish the album and you kind of think, how can you go to anywhere from here? And what I've always thought as well is that I've got these moments where I'm singing with Jenny's part on the fiddle, and I love our blend when we play together. And then it's almost this comparison of when Chris is singing and when Andy's on the guitar, and that mix for me at the end, right at the top, and you can kind of hear it at the last part of the song, is again this kind of color combination of sounds that's just the pinnacle. And then the song finishes and you're like, well, what do I do now?
I think I put at the end of my review, I want more. No, I don't know. I don't know if you caught the end of it, but there was like Pete Townsend where he sings "A little is enough," and that's all you need.
I mean, that with that song, there was as it was coming together, it's just in the end section, there's this thing where it's a kind of call and response, and they sort of overlap almost. And I just started thinking, what came into my mind actually was, do you know Clannad? Anyway, it doesn't matter, but there's a band called Clannad.
Oh yeah, from Ireland, yeah.
And they did a song with a collaboration with Bono from U2.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that song.
In a Lifetime.
In a Lifetime, yeah.
And that popped up, and I just thought, oh man, I mean, because as Jess says, Chris Sampson from Azure, I was blown away with him as a singer, and I kind of, Jess and Chris, they're these two unbelievable forces, vocal forces, and I just thought, oh man, if Chris would sing these answers to Jess's questions, wouldn't it just be perfect, really?
Their voice just gets higher and higher and higher. That's what I'm still always wrapping my brain around. Like it's like, oh, this is the end bit, and then it's like there's more. And there's
there will be on the next one.
I said to Chris, man, what you need to do is take this to the heavens now. And that's what it's done. Yeah,
they did it. Yeah. And what a great way to finish off an album, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a blast.
we're running on that time zone. I mean, end of time thing. I was just going to ask you guys because the Blackheart Orchestra got me started on this. I should have done it a long time ago. Who are your favorite bands? Whoever wants to go first. Yeah.
Andy, you go first, quick.
Oh, all right then. Not so much bands really. I mean, I've mentioned Yes, obviously, and we've mentioned Steely Dan, and so some more. You know, John Martin. John Martin is
Yes.
songwriter. Joni Mitchell is just what can you say that hasn't been said? Guitarists, Steve Hillage, Jeff Beck, who tragically we've lost.
Unfortunately, yeah, we lost him.
Pat Metheny. I could go on. It's a long list. I'm not a huge fan of, bizarrely, of prog music as a whole, actually. You know, so I was never like really a Genesis fan particularly. I love some of the stuff they've done, but it was out of the prog group genre, Yes is the one for me.
ELP?
No, not really. I mean, I love funk music. I mean, I was lucky enough to play with Bill Withers on tour, and
wow.
that whole kind of black soul, American soul thing. I adore that. So yes, kind of eclectic. Same with Jess, I'm sure. You know, kind of eclectic. But those are the artists that I'm still listening to.
Okay.
Still loving and still being inspired by. Your turn.
I'll keep mine nice and short then, because again, mine's the same. Like, I love listening to all sorts of music, but at the moment, my top three, for all different reasons, there's this incredible group of musicians. They're called Michelle as a band, but in terms of harmonies and stage presence, I managed to get to see them. They're from the US, but they came to London, so I got to see that with a friend. And then in terms of songwriting and musicality, Lianne La Havas, who I just adore with my entire being. And then my favorite artist for songwriting for stage presence is someone again from the US called Fletcher, who I just like one day I will.
I think I have heard of her. Yeah.
You've heard of her? She is my life. So
in fact, I think wasn't she New Year's Eve, Miley Cyrus.
Yeah, with Miley Cyrus. Yeah.
Dolly Parton. Yeah, I think that's where I first. I'd never heard of her, but that's where I first heard of her.
But I've also managed to go and see her live because she's been on tour for, like, she's done US, she's done UK, she's heading to, I think she's done Australia and New Zealand as well, but got to see her live as well. And like, that's the kind of stage presence that one day I'm going to get up to. But
I think you might be there already.
Well, yeah, we just need to get bigger stages, Mark. We just need a bigger stage.
Exactly. Exactly. Can I just add? Sorry, I just want to add one more band, which you might know, you might not. They're from Quebec. Le Boutin Souriant.
No.
Oh, okay, check them out.
I'm gonna have to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, Le Boutin Souriant. That's that kind of Quebecois fiddle style, but a big band. Oh, man. Anyway, I've stopped. I'll stop now.
They record them dancing as well. They wear clogs and it's mad.
Sounds good.
I know who they are. I'm impressed with myself.
Oh, right, cool. Yeah.
My brother told me about them.
Just to kind of close things off, is there anything else that I missed that you guys wanted to talk
about? We would love to come to the States.
Please.
You guys have got to help us spread the word. Listen to the album. If you love it, share it to all of the people that you know who you think they'd love it as well. like we're just getting started. I think 2021 showed us that. 2022 is already looking, no, 2023 is already looking exciting. So we're just raring to go at this point, and we just want to hit the ground running and just keep spreading the love and keep spreading the music. So we can only do that really through the help of everyone who listens and shares that. I don't know.
What I'm hoping to do from our end anyway, and this is a long way away from me, is Seattle. But we have a Sea Prog. It's like a prog festival every year in the summertime, because it looks like that in the summertime. Actually, this was January, but usually you don't get a day like that in January anyway. But they like to cater to local bands, which you can understand. They want to try to build the Seattle prog scene. But I keep telling the founder, please bring a couple of talented bands from the UK, from Europe. And so I'm hoping to do an interview with him eventually, but I'm hoping to do that, to sort of entice him to bring a couple of major bands over, just to kind of help draw enough people, not just from Seattle. That'll be easy, but from the whole west coast or even further, to really help his festival, and as well as draw people for these new bands as well. I mean, if somebody like you that has a successful history and things like that, it'll help them as well, and it'll give you a chance to come over here as well. So I'm hoping that all that'll work out. Not just you guys, but many others. But yeah.
Good luck, man. Keep on it.
Yeah, definitely. I really, there's so much great music being made around the world, for that matter, but especially Prague in England, and UK and Europe, and that's where it all started. And so you gotta somehow take your hat off to what everyone over there is doing. And anyway,
cool.
Hugely for you having us chat to you.
Well, sure. No, your album has definitely kicked off 23 in the perfect way. So thank you for your music. It's a wonderful album. And anything else, because we're about to get cut off here.
Oh, that was great. It was lovely to speak to you.
All right. Well, you guys take care. Thank you for taking your time again. I know you guys are on a busy schedule. Andy said he's been doing a lot of interviews, and you're working on music constantly. Plus, if you have full-time jobs as well, which most musicians do this, now. Thank you, really, for taking this time, and appreciate it. And I'll post this as soon as I can. But good talking with both of you.
Lovely.
Thanks for having us.
Take care. Thanks very much. We'll see you soon.
Well, hold on just